what we are being fed as casual listeners is generally crap propagated by corporations, maybe?
I found this because when I was younger, like I'm sure a lot of people, new metal was a thing, still is apparently. I didn't know Mudvayne was still going, and I quite liked a few of their songs. But I saw this, and he says all metal bands sound the same now. He is saying this dressed up as Rammstein Light, but he also went on to kind of talk about when he was playing Ozfest, and he mentions like Drowning Pool, Papa Roach, Disturbed. He talks about a festival lineup, Slipknot, and he's like, none of those bands sound the same, right? And to him, a lot of the bands sound the same. And I thought it'd be a good talking point because while I think, to be honest, he's also promoting something. He's promoting like an album or whatever. So, like, yeah, you're trying to get some eyes on it. So he's going to say some stuff. But I did think about how interesting it was. Like when I was in a band many, many moons ago, there was like a lot of differentiation within genres, even in specific metal genres. But then it just became like a race to be who could be the heaviest, like who could scream the loudest, who could do the
Mhm.
most pig squeals, who could do the longest breakdown, who could do the like. It just became this race to the bottom, and I don't mean it in like a negative way, but everyone started sounding the same. That's never good. And you do get bands that kind of lead the forefront in changing and adapting. But I think with and this is what I want to get your thoughts on. One is, do you agree or don't you? But also, a 13-year-old with very limited funds could create music in his bedroom now. So there's an infinitely larger amount of music being created and being created by people much younger who don't have maybe the life experience or the musical experience or the live show experience to kind of truly be influenced and put their own stamp on it. So do you agree with what he's saying? Do you think that it does go through generational phases? And do you think like technology is contributing to that?
My initial thought was this plays into the whole thing that what we are being fed as casual listeners is generally crap propagated by corporations, maybe? Like what we're
That's how you
allowed to
really feel.
hear,
Fuck.
what we're allowed to hear by
Mhm.
casual listening does sound like a bunch of the same crap. If you actually
Yeah.
want to go out and find music, there's tons of music out there. But are the bands he's talking about unoriginal? Maybe, but that's kind of like a bunch of goths not conforming, but they all end up looking the same, right? That's kind of what Chase is
Mhm.
talking about. Y'all trying to do something really different, but then you all end up in the same fucking boat. But I
Yeah.
also think it's part old man complaining about new music.
Yes.
Dude, he sang
Yeah.
for Hell Yeah, one of the most unoriginal bands I've ever heard.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
fucking whatever, dude.
Well, I mean, too, if you even think about like back in whenever I guess Ozfest days was going on too, like if you could really put a lot of those bands that were maybe not headliners, but just on the Ozfest bill, a lot of them sounded very similar. I'm not saying like
Yeah.
the exact same bands, but they sounded very, very similar. Even their tones, man. Like they're if you go back and listen to an album produced by Roadrunner Records in like the freaking early
I
2000s,
remember that.
they
Yeah.
yeah, they all
Seven
had that
string.
same. What was his name? The producer. I can see his face, dude.
Ross.
Uh,
Ross something who did corn and
there's that and Jason something. I almost said Jason Newsted.
no.
Damn,
No,
he's on
everybody
the.
went to seven string guitars, man. So
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to disagree with Mudvayne's singer on this one. I think he's got mud in his ears, dude. I think that there's a lot of new stuff going on now. There's everything. It just depends on what you want to listen to, like you said, Ryan. There's so much music out there. I guess it's what we're being fed by the corporations on the radio and stuff. But if you go out there, you'll discover there's so much more music.
the,
Yep.
the crazy
Yeah.
thing to me is I was over at my buddy's house a while ago and he put on Mudvayne and I was like, dude, this sounds like so much of the music I'm listening to now and enjoying from Japan. Like their
Mm,
music back then was really fucking good and really fucking cool.
Agreed.
And
yeah.
I was like, there's a lot of stuff I'm hearing right now in this song that's 25 years old that I like about current music now coming out of Japan.
Hmm.
I think one of the issues. I mean, he's comparing a festival lineup, which is that is purposefully like taking context out because
Hmm.
people build. I went to Slam Dunk in Leeds just before I moved over to the States, and it's everyone from Offspring to Emarosa. Like they're picking loads of different bands across 4 stages, so you can't really compare a festival lineup where they purposefully are bringing in different bands.
Sure.
My thing that I think is the bigger issue is I think back, when technology wasn't as prevalent in songwriting, at least. And
Mhm.
I'm not talking about analog, I'm talking about you and your friends in a band room kind of writing songs versus nowadays you're kind of listening to music and trying to emulate. And then there gets to the confusing part, which is like, I'm going to purposefully make this different. So it comes across as extremely inauthentic, even if it sounds okay, even if you can pull it off. Like,
Mhm.
and I've heard a lot of people say that about a band like Polyphia, which I don't agree with. I think they're you can't I don't really look at Polyphia as just standard music, and I don't think you should, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of
Sure.
people trying to purposefully be different. It is inauthentic and it doesn't
Mm.
last.
Well, yeah, I mean, being different just for the sake of being different, I think it's gonna lead to like that disingenuine tone, and people are gonna be able to hear through it. You know what I
Like
mean?
like slap guitar.
Exactly. Well, like name a slap guitarist besides that one guy, like, and I can't even
No,
remember his name. So
Victor Wooten.
isn't that bass though?
he's
That's
a
bass.
bass. He's a
Yeah,
bassist. He's a bassist. I
You
mean, the
gotta slap the
slap
bass.
smacking guitars
Slapping, yeah.
everywhere. It's neat, but I
Yeah,
never
But
fucking listened to
imagine
it.
thinking you own a genre. Like that's the thing, the arrogance of that. Like in
yeah,
my
yeah.
day, as we like all of these bands, the Slipknots of the world, all these guys were influenced by other bands, maybe less directly so in their time. But
Mhm.
I don't write that much music anymore, so like I kind of have a different perspective. Wave, you're a pretty big songwriter. I see you playing 6 instruments at once, doing the Walk of the Earth thing. Do you find it more challenging now to be original?
uh, when I don't know when I'm writing new music, like I'm not really thinking about what it's gonna sound like. I'm thinking like what sounds cool in this session, you know?
Mhm.
Because like on my album, it's like a every song has its own different sound, and like it's not a very cohesive album, you know? Because I
It's
don't really think about the sound that much when I'm in the studio. I don't know.
Which is interesting because some bands do. They really do focus on the overall sound of the entire album as a whole. But I'm like Wave also, where I just make sure I listen, not make sure, I just naturally listen to a bunch of styles of music because I don't focus on one genre. I think that
Mm.
helps make it different,
Mhm.
naturally, not forcing it. I'm not going in there saying, "Oh, I'm going to do a new metal song," because I've tried that one time. I did it for Ren actually. He said, "I want to do a new metal song." I said, "I'll do it." And I realized really quickly how unnatural that was to
Mhm.
actually make it a point to write a new metal song. And I did it, but it felt very strange. Like,
Boring?
ugh.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I just don't know. It just felt weird. I
I
was like, I
guess,
never want to do that again. I never want to be forced to write a specific genre, you know?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, to what Chase was saying, I would say like if it does sound too much like anything else, I'm like I gotta change this up because and I know it does sound like other things to other people, but like when I'm in the studio, I don't want it to sound like anything else. So I guess I do try to be original just for the sake of it. I don't know.
But that like albums used to probably overstating this, but albums used to matter. Like the whole idea of like these like theatrical storytelling pieces. Now people are releasing like basically the album in installments. They'll release individual tracks very far from each other. You're not listening to it for the first time in like a front to back kind of scenario. So
Yeah.
those songs have to have some weight to stand out on their own. They just have to. And yes, sure, retrospectively you can listen to them. I'm a big Sleep Token fan, and they've done the whole trilogy thing of what they've done. And when you look back on it, you can appreciate the thought that went into kind of the journey of it. But if those songs don't stand up individually, it's like then I don't give a shit.
Mhm.
I
It's
gotta,
wild because like I think that almost in the technology kind of plays a really cool factor in this whole conversation if you think about like the broadness of how much music we can listen to. Because like you were saying, like albums in the broad scale don't mean a whole lot, but like I think to me, Alan, Wave, and like I think Ryan as well, like I think we're very big full album listeners. You know what I mean? Like I know I'm like I love finding one song, but then it brings me to that whole album, and then I like to listen to the cohesiveness of an album or the story
Yeah.
that an album takes me on, And which so I don't know, it's cool that technology I think allows us to all be able to hear stuff, especially like all of us being able to hear like Japanese music or something that we otherwise wouldn't have heard, and then be able to choose what kind of listener we want to be, I think is what I'm getting at. Like it's so
Nice.
broad now,
Yeah, that's what I love about like System of a Down or Circus Survive. They have these albums
Yes.
that like
Wow.
flow into each other. It's like feels like one huge song all put together,
Mhm.
you know?
Circus
Yeah, that's
Survive,
wild
man.
you said. Yeah, yeah.
What a reference. Isn't this guy? Fucking hell.
Yeah.
For more fun conversations, subscribe and come to our live shows, Sundays and Wednesdays right here on Gaijin Guys. You can also get extra content on our Patreon and YouTube members section. This is definitely not a deep fake. Stay sassy. Peace.